City of Ellsworth, Kansas, September 25th, 2023. All stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Insert. All right, first item on our agenda will be the consent agenda will be the approval of the September 11th City Council meeting minutes, and also we will include the water termination extension request. Callie, do we have any?
We have none.
We have none, so just be the minutes for September 11th, 2023. Nope. Mayor, I'll make the motion for the approval of this September 11th meeting minutes. I'll second it. Councilor Johnson has made a motion to approve the consent agenda, including the September 11th minutes. Councilor Scritchfield has seconded that motion. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, motion carries. Next section of our meeting is petitions and delegations. For all citizen comments, please state your full name and whether you are an Ellsworth City resident. All citizen comments are limited to 5 minutes per subject unless City Council has further questions. As a side note, this will probably be the only time in this meeting that the public will have an option just to speak about the park. Once we get on the agenda item with the park, it'll just be council only. So if you'd like to approach council and discuss Christick Park, now is your time. Anybody else? Anybody like to approach council? All right, so let's move on to unfinished business. Moving right along to the Christick Park Advisory Committee presentation by Brian Foster with BG Consultants. Welcome, Brian.
We good?
That'd be great.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry. Try not to get in there. Yeah, so I'm Brian Foster. I'm an engineer with BG Consultants. Dustin invited me to attend one of the advisory park committee meetings. I don't remember how far, 3 months ago or something.
Yes.
And so I attended that meeting with very little background on the park, and I basically listened to the committee and some of their concerns. I left that meeting tasked with reviewing some of the project documents, and then I returned to a second meeting that was, what, 3 weeks ago, something like that, and just kind of getting an update of my thoughts. And Dustin asked me if I would come and share the same update that I provided the committee with the city council tonight. So that's what I'm here to do. Feel free to ask me questions as I go. I don't really have a formal presentation. I was just going to kind of talk like I did at that last committee meeting. So the first committee meeting, it was apparent that there was a lot of interest in filling that south basin. So that's what a lot of my time was spent doing, was looking at that and the feasibility of that. So a couple things, just to point out, there's a lot going on there. There's a lot of things that are kind of interweaving throughout this project, I guess. Some of the design parameters, KDOT will not allow us to fill or to back water up past the toe of their berm on the highways. So that was a limiting factor in how much water can be stored on both the north and south basin. So, raising those berms up and using that same area to hold more volume of water is not an option. And that's gonna be important later too, when I talk about some of the things that they asked me to do. They asked me to look at if there would be any potential further north to maybe get some additional attention. So I want to make sure that everybody knows that that is a limiting factor. During the project, there was some geology that was performed on the South Basin. That geology was performed by KDOT. It was very limited to that northwest corner of the basin. So basically, when you go out there and you look and you see that kind of tiered flat spot on that northwest part, that's where KDOT performed their geology. And they found that there was a rock ledge there, and that's why, I'm assuming that's why that they revised the plan and didn't go and excavate that rock out. There was some discussion in that report about that rock creating a spring, so as water comes down, hits the rock, and then it travels horizontally across the rock until it finds a relief point. There was, I went through and I looked at all of the KDOT inspection logs that was provided by KDOT. There was a lot of sandy soils that were noted in the North Basin. There was a lot of discussion on equipment getting stuck. And I believe that first day, a scraper got stuck on the first day when they were starting to strip on the South Basin. Looked like they had issues maybe in both North and South Basins. They ended up, or they quantified the bottom 2.75 feet of the South Basin as being wet excavation. I did not look at contracts and I did not look at change orders, but it looked like there might have been some consideration for a different pavement for that wet excavation. And all this gets into if we were to fill the South Basin, how high do we fill it? There was a proposal by the original design engineer to fill basically from 1 to 2.5 feet of that South Basin. And I'm not convinced that that would solve the problem or get it. I guess I'm not convinced that that would bring the park to a useful area that the committee wanted. If there was 2.75 feet of swampy area, I'm not sure if we could put in a foot or 2 foot of fill. Yeah.
I just wanted to quantify, that was in response to the 4 options that KDOT gave us last year. So we were trying to appease them with that plan.
And so that was a concern. And then of course the scraper getting stuck basically like dripping topsoil. It may be that to get the park back, you would have to fill it all the way up and maybe then some, because normally man cannot put it back as well as Mother Nature did. So seal that up is definitely a concern. We talked a little bit about the permitting of that. We did not get into this in detail. I did not make any inquiries to any of the regulatory agencies, but that is actually a floodplain. So if you'd be filling back, there may be a potential that you'd have to apply for a floodplain fill permit. I'm not 100% sure how all those rules work if you excavate out and then after a while you want to fill it back in. So that's a concern that I think would have to be looked at. Another concern is that it could be considered a wetlands with the type of vegetation that's growing in them. Again, the city created it. Not sure if they can then destroy it without having any mitigation or not. Again, did not look into that issue. Those are concerns. So to go in and actually fill the South Basin, I was asked to put a cost estimate together for that. I put what I consider a very conservative cost estimate together based on all the challenges and unknowns of that. just to get I talked to a few geologists, just to get geology done on that site, if it's a swampy area, it might be all right because it's pretty dry. But, under normal conditions, it would be challenging even to get out there and have a drill rig go out there and drill on it. So the geology alone would be a challenge, and I think we would want to do that to determine, how to fit it. So I put some cost in there for that. For actual constructability, we would have to clear all that vegetation out. We would have to, in a way, dewater it. It's not good practice to start pushing material in mud and just not getting good compaction. So I added some cost for dewatering wells. Again, I'm not convinced that just putting some material in there will solve the problem. Or get it to I shouldn't say solve the problem, I should say getting into a place where it's a usable park again. So I included some cost to put in an underdrain system. That would basically be a perforated pipe, with some gravel around it, some gravel wrapped in the woven fabric. And then placing dirt on top of that, and then all that system would then daylight and drain out to the creek. So you'd be placing that down and placing fill on top of that. Again, just with all the challenges with construction and being in that area, I added quite a bit of cost. I'm sure you guys know the number, but I came up with $700,000 as a total project cost. Again, I hope that that's conservative. Obviously, that's not what I get paid for it. I have no interest in that. That's just what I feel that the going rate would be for that project. Some other things that we talked about is if we do fill the South Basin, that has an impact. Right now, that South Basin, I mean, it is a stormwater feature. It is preventing some flooding of your downtown. We did not run any hydraulics. We did review the hydraulic report. But whatever fill you place in that South Basin, without replacing it somewhere else, or replacing detention somewhere else, you are going to increase the likelihood of somebody getting flooded downstream. So that was a big discussion. They asked me at the second meeting if I could look at areas for potential detention. They specifically mentioned the corner, the northwest corner of that intersection, and then a little bit farther north. I pronounce it the Mako property. Mike, okay. So we did look at that a little bit. We might be able to get some detention there, but it would be a fraction of what the South Detention Basin provides, and a lot of that. And we were just kind of back of the napkin looking at it with LiDAR and some stuff like that. But it would appear we would run into the same problem of not being able to back water up onto the KDOT embankment or under KDOT. The drainage basin from there crosses over Highway 14 twice as it gets to so if we were on the west side, we would be backing water back up through, across to the east side of Highway 14. And so we would have to, that would limit us on how much, the height of the water division we would have to move briefly through, if all that makes sense. So, not a lot of area there, or not a lot of potential there to replace all of the South Basin, at least from what I saw, unless you do a massive amount. I don't know if you want to get more into the flood control stuff or not.
I think why you're here.
Okay.
Yeah.
As I'm sure a lot of you are aware, FEMA has proposed some new floodplain maps. I have not looked at those extensively. I've looked at what they're proposing. More of downtown is going to be placed in the 100-year floodplain, which means more people are going to have to have insurance, have to have a flood insurance. This project is not recognized in those initial maps. I think the city is doing some work to try to get them recognized?
Yes, the engineers that worked on it in the project originally are working with FEMA to get those updated.
But it's likely that the project will not take it all the way out. And so I think you'll still have some challenges with what to do with downtown flooding. There's several different options to look at there, and you will have to, but ultimately, I think you guys would end up doing a study to review what is needed to protect downtown. Appears that some of that water is coming from the north. Some of that water could be just coming out of the river and getting out of the banks of the river. So you'd have limited options on how to protect the city from the river coming in. Water coming through from downtown or from the north could have some options. Would that be a local infrastructure, pumping stations, more detention? So that's my 5-minute overview. Obviously, we spent a little bit more time in the committee. Well,
All right, Aaron, you want to start asking questions or?
And I understand you've had limited time on this project and stuff like that, but seeing what you've seen, would you have a proposal in a certain way that you would lean towards?
to fill in the south basin.
Is that solution wise?
I think to fill in the south basin, I came up with what I thought it would take to fill in the south basin. There was some discussion of why can't we just start pushing dirt in there? Honestly, if you guys want to do that, I just don't want to be a part of it. I don't know how well that will work. It's definitely an option. It should be an option that you guys at least consider, I guess. But I know I don't be involved in that because I can't say that it's going to work.
Pretty high possibility of basically all that just eroding now.
I think if you just started pushing stuff in there, you wouldn't get very good compaction.
Right.
And you would still turn into a swampy area. It appeared that the original park, just by, like I said, the construction reports of the scraper getting stuck the first day, stripping topsoil off, it sounded like it was swampy-ish even before the project started. And, I guess it just depends on how, what's acceptable to patrons of the park. Is it back to normal? Is it better than normal? Is it something less than back to normal? Because if you just fill it back where it was at, I don't know if you're gonna have the same results as what Mother Nature did.
Makes sense.
And you mentioned something about going further south as a possibility. Did I hear that correctly?
I think I said north. If I said south, I was saying.
Okay.
Yeah. So, looking north, we did look north on the northwest corner to see if we could get some additional detention there, but looking at the LiDAR, it didn't look like we would get as much as what the south basin is providing. You can still go farther north. The problem is the farther you go north, the less water you capture because you're getting higher in the basin. So you have less of an impact on the water that you can. More water.
Yeah.
Wayne?
So, Brian, if the suggestion was to put under drains in, to put some topsoil back in, they have to get equipment in there, right? So if they could get equipment in there to do that, then I suppose they could have got, if they would have the right equipment, the right techniques, they could have got in there and finished the project as designed. Is that fair to say?
I don't know if I can comment on that, because I wasn't there, and what I put in for my cost estimate was actually some dewatering ones to help with that aspect.
Um, so in your professional opinion, would you fill that basin in?
I would not.
Would you put it somewhere else?
I would, I would look into options to protect downtown with flooding. I don't know if that's a political thing, but I don't know if and the reason I say I would not fill it in is because it is providing some level of flood protection. And as a professional engineer, my job is to protect public health and safety, public health and welfare. And in my world, flooding is more important than the park. And that's why I gave that answer.
Okay, I'm gonna talk about some things that came out of that meeting that were presented here. One of the things that was presented here that the engineers had, a bond. Do you have a bond with this?
I don't have a bond, I have, insurance. I have professional liability insurance.
So engineers don't get bonds.
I don't,
You never.
yeah, I don't.
And, so the contractor, we also were advised that the contractor has bonds with the city. And the KDOT wrote off that the job was complete in their opinion. I checked with KDOT, the bonds actually are in KDOT's name. Do you think we'd have much luck going after contractors' bonds? If they're in KDOT's name, KDOT says the job's complete.
I guess it would be depending on what your argument is for why you're going after these bonds. The performance bond, there should be two bonds, a payment bond and a performance bond. Sometimes a payment bond is called a statutory bond. That bond is for materials, so that's kind of pushed to the side. Performance bond is for project warranty if the project is not functioning as it's intended. So I'm going to use a different example, like a pump station. If you have a pump station and a motor went bad, or something like that, you have all the product warranties, but the contractor still has a warranty on the work itself. If you have a water and a joint failed in that water line, within that warranty period, the contractor would have to come back and fix it. I didn't get into the contracts of what was negotiated as far as change orders go or anything like that, or how it's completed or not. That was not asked of me yet.
KDOT's comment was it will perform as easily.
It does appear that it's less, the amount of storm retention is less than what was designed. I think that had to do with the rock. But again, some of that's just kind of catching from the notes of the field.
So your one suggestion was the under drains and then placing some topsoil on top probably to get vegetation to grow. I mean, the right vegetation.
Yeah, and that would be, if you wanted to fill it in, I think that's what you should look at doing in order to not have a swamp just at a different elevation.
I think that's all I had.
Tyler, questions?
I think Wayne and Aaron, they kind of asked what I was wondering too, so that's good for me then.
All right, let's swing, thanks to Tyler, we'll swing it back to Aaron, he's got another question.
You mentioned having to possibly install some, pumps. Possibly, if we went a certain route, as an option.
Yeah,
I was just curious what the average cost for like one was.
so stormwater pumps are astronomically huge compared to everyday pumps that we're used to doing in, the water and waste. When you talk about, and I don't even know some of the volumes coming down from the north, trying to get a pump large enough to pump some of that, they would be huge pump. Not to say that they can't be done. For example, the city of Manhattan, if anybody's familiar, they have a levee around their downtown. When the river comes up, they have to shut the gates to protect from the river backing into the town. When they shut the gates and it rains inside the bowl, they have to pump it out, so they have huge pumps. I do not know the cost of it. I don't have an idea, so it's something that we just didn't get that far down the way.
Questions? Dustin, you have any questions?
No, not at this time. I do have a statement. My concern is echoing his FEMA maps. I did go to a couple of classes to at least learn a little bit more, is, that's kind of one of my jobs you've tasked me with, is floodplain management. And my understanding is, without being an engineer, as you take any fill out, you're gonna have to send that report to FEMA. If you put any fill in, you're gonna have to submit that report to FEMA, and any change that you make based on what they taught me is they will adjust the maps, because their LiDAR readings and all of the stuff that they've been surveying over the years, so they have modeling. And based on that model, if you make any changes to it, it will change where they put the 100-year flood. So I'm more concerned about our downtown and our economic viability than I am the aesthetics of the park. That's just my perspective and what I'm worried about.
Anything else, Dustin?
Thank you.
Wayne, everything else? Aaron, nothing, Tyler, okay. Brian, thank you. I mean, I think that you really helped everybody understand this is a complicated situation that is far larger than the park. You know, it's far larger than the park, so right now we're just concentrating on making the park look better. But it sounds like we're gonna have a second phase to this to really look at the city overall, other steps. So we appreciate you coming, and the only question I have, I don't wanna cut my own self off, but so you're talking about the under drain storage and the pumps. If we just dried the park out, no topsoil, no fill at all, we would still use that technology, correct?
If you drive, I'm sorry.
No, we're not, well, let's just say we decide we don't want to fill, we just want to dry, put some kind of vegetation on it, where it's not swampy, we would still use the.
Yeah, so I was talking about the watering wells, and so those are done during construction,
Right,
to lower the water table so that,
equipment can
so
go,
the equipment can get in. After construction is completed, you wouldn't want to run those at watering wells.
Right.
It just wouldn't be economical to run those for perpetuity.
right, so you pull those out, but during that process, you'd put the under drain system in, correct?
Yeah, so an under drain system,
French drains,
Yeah.
huge French drains.
yeah, and it wouldn't necessarily be huge. I mean, you'd have to size it all, but probably like 6-inch pipe or something like that's just perforated. I mean, they install them a lot in agricultural fields, like
Right.
they call them drain tiles.
Right, so you would put the water pumps in, so you can get equipment in there, and it doesn't seem like it'd be huge equipment, it's just a backhoe, right? To get those under drains, put in there,
Right,
medium weight,
yeah.
right?
But-
But,
I do want to preface, if you do that, I don't think you can lower the basin any more than what it is now, because that under drain still has to daylight to
Right,
to
right.
the creek. So that controls our bottom elevation.
Right.
I don't know if it can be much lower than what it is now, but just looking at the plans, we didn't go out and survey anything
Sure.
like that, but just looking at the plans, it doesn't look like it'd get much lower. So if we put that in, put in aggregate, put in the drain basin, put soil on top of it, you're still filling it in. You're still losing capacity
okay,
of that basin.
so that's even a problem then in a way,
It will, anything you do there
there's gonna be some fill.
is gonna be some.
All right, you're answering some questions, see? No, go ahead, you're.
Brian, were you provided the study that Trevor Michael did to put under drains in?
I didn't see a study for anything. I saw a proposed grading plan.
There's a study for doing under drains across the whole thing. You basically came up with the same conclusion that Trevor Michael did.
Okay,
But that's what KDOT wouldn't pay for the end, right? They shot that down in an October 10th letter, then Dustin went and appealed, they said, no, project's done and over with, so I'm trying to get this in my mind that if you put the under drain system in, you're still raising the level of which is the problem for the floodplain and FEMA, but you could potentially put vegetation down there, maybe, it won't be swampy anymore. How many feet do you think? Just a guesstimate.
I mean, without any other knowledge, probably the the plan that was proposed, you know, that foot to 2.5 foot, would probably be about right. I mean, you'd have to have enough to cover the under drains.
Right, sure.
Um,
Would the under drains, if you dug in the future, how many under drains you're looking, would it be a grid?
it could be different. So right now, I believe the basin kind of slopes generally north to south, and there's kind of, I can't remember if it's totally flat across there or if there's a center, kind of a ditch, if you will, or I shouldn't say ditch, but a V.
Right.
A very, very gradual V. And I've looked at, either the proposed one had it or the actual one that was built had it. I can't remember which one. But you would essentially do that. You'd have maybe a trunk line, little pipe, and then you'd have like a tree coming off of it.
Right.
With smaller drain valves going out of the V, if that makes sense.
So if you dug into it for another application, you'd have some limitation, you just couldn't go where you wanted, it'd be like an irrigation system, you just couldn't dig where you wanted to dig. You couldn't anyway, because there's rock underneath it anyway,
Well, there's rock in the northwest corner.
but in the southwest,
I
there's,
don't know if there's rock in other places or
okay. But it would limit you, you have to know where those are, I mean, you don't want to hit them, of course.
not. Right.
Okay,
Yeah, I mean, yeah, so if you did install that and then you wanted to go plant a tree or something in the park.
Right.
You
you need to know where it is,
Yeah.
you need to know what you're doing. Okay, of the numbers that you've run, can you, if we do request that, can you take that $700 and pare it down to that? Without having to do a lot more work, I mean, could you just take and recalculate that quote that you have, or would you have to go back to the drawing board?
I'm not sure what you're asking.
So to put that under drain system in with a 1.5 to 2 feet of fill, could you take your numbers and create that quote from that?
That's essentially what my quote was.
Oh, really?
Was having that under drain system in.
Okay,
Placing fill material.
right,
Topsoil, and I have a broken out, I call it, I don't like to use the word quote, it's an opinion of cost.
sure.
So I had a detailed one broken out.
So that technically, when you say fill, it's not filling that hole in totally.
Yeah, I mean,
You're just putting that 1.5 to 2 feet of soil on top there to make it usable.
right,
That's your fill. Okay,
but you are reducing the capacity.
Sure.
of that basin.
okay. So when people say fill, we're gonna fill it in, they're thinking the thing's gonna be flat and smooth to the top of the berm, and that's not what you're proposing.
That's not what I proposed, I mean, that's definitely another option. I don't know again, I think you still might have to have that under drain system
Sure,
just to be able to build.
but that would add cost dramatically.
Yeah, so you're just adding more
Right.
material in there.
Okay,
But I mean, even if you wanted to put 4 feet of fill in there or whatever,
right,
back to the original grade, you still have to be able to get in there and compact it.
Sure.
And if it's a swamp, you have to be able to drain that swamp, so.
right. Do you feel, Dustin and Brian, that they understood that they, like, I'm not sure I completely understood when they said fill, they were talking about just filling in 1.5 to 2 feet. In my mind, they were really asking to fill it in. Like when they say fill it in, we're talking fill it in. This quote does not do that, right? So that's good. I'm glad you clarified that because I was thinking that quote was to make it smooth and almost like it didn't exist anymore.
And again, I don't know what the original grade.
Right. Sure. Okay. I'm happy. I'm super happy that you came. I think it was very helpful. Filled in a lot of blanks. But anything else for Brian? We'll let him have a seat. All right, thank you, Brian. Appreciate it. Yeah.
Thank you, guys.
Okay, yeah. Thank you, Brian. And guys, I'd like to make a request that we do a special meeting, maybe before the regular meeting, October the 9th.
That's the next council meeting.
Yeah, 5 o'clock, and then what we'll do at that point is we'll decide what we're gonna do with the advisory council, what their focus will be or not be. What general direction we're gonna go in. We don't have to have a final decision. Clearly, this is complicated stuff, but it gives you 2 weeks to talk and any problems with that? I mean, I know you may not get Megan, are you okay with that? Tyler, are you okay with that?
Yeah, that would be fine.
And that way we can have 2 weeks to kind of talk to people and you can come talk to Dustin if you need to and. All right, so let's plan on a special meeting at 5 o'clock on October the 9th. And then we'll, we can get the advisory council here and provide them with some general direction. Or, you know, if we decide that's, that's the end of it, then we can decide that then too. All right, very good. Okay, so next item on our agenda is the presentation of the housing assessment tool.
Go ahead. Thank you, Mayor. First, I wanted to thank council for allowing me to put this project together. I had multiple people help me out. I was really happy. I want to thank Anita. She was a huge person to help us spearhead this. Delvin, who cannot be here tonight for other reasons. Ideal Real Estate, Ellsworth Planning Commission donated a couple of people. Dina from the school district helped. Ellsworth Housing Authority, Jen helped. Economic Development, Stacy was a big help. First Bank of Kansas, Good Samaritan House assisted us. Western Co-op, Ellsworth Co-op, Citizen State Bank and Trust, Candyquip Cash Co. Carico, Ellsworth County Medical Center, Jim was a part of it. Kirkham Michael sent someone, thank you, John. Pastor Dennis Carter and a lot more have assisted in this project. I wanted to thank everybody. It's the last one that was done was 2014, and while I'm not happy with the perfection, there's a lot of things that I learned from the experience and things that I know that we can do better. I think overall it's a good start. And now we're to the part where we're going to start utilizing the data that we did find. We're going to go after grants, CDBG. When Delvin gave on Wednesday while I was gone, he gave a speech to the HIAC, which excuse me while I go back to my notes here. It's the Housing Interagency Advisory Committee with the Department of Commerce. And we presented to them and they told us that because of the low community participation in this one outside of the stakeholders and the business leaders, they advised us that CDBG may not be the first option, but on the other hand, they gave us a lot of other options that I wasn't aware of. So on one end, CDBG may not be an option. We got a lot of stuff that I can work with Delvin to sell the public that they can apply for. And I can help them apply for those grants so that they can apply individually to fix up their homes and get stuff done. So it was a mixed bag, but we got it done. And I just wanted to thank Anita and everybody who assisted with me. And I'm probably going to do this once every couple of years while I try to drum up support from the public and let them know that they have options and that the more public participation we have, the better our numbers will be and the more grant money we can go after. So I'm pretty happy with that. Mix that with a couple of things. One, I owe this council a lot of thanks because you gave me Delvin to do building inspections. You also gave me the opportunity to I want to thank the police department for allowing me to take over the code enforcement mission. From what I've learned from Keegan Bailey with the North Regional Central Planning Commission, as well as this experience, is that when we focus those efforts on property mitigation and on zoning and on correcting our maps, that's one thing I've tasked Delvin with a lot, is we ran into a lot of issues with our maps not matching what is reality. So we're bringing a lot of vacations to you, and that's going to be more. We're doing a lot of code enforcement efforts, like trees is something that we're going to be talking about, defining roads, which is something I'm working with Karen on. Or I'm going to bring some more legislation to you soon, proposals to try to define what a dirt road is. Just little things like that we're focusing on, and the end result is it's showing the outside world that we're investing in ourselves. And so that's a lot of what I've learned from this HAP process is that we're going to use the data that allows Stacy to apply for grants, as well as a lot of other community organizations. Little things like that is going to send a message that we're going to make our community better, and it shows that we're willing to invest in ourselves. And that's going to hopefully invite investment from outside folks soon. So I just wanted to present this to you, get a request council's blessing on it, so that we can move forward. And then in a couple of years, I'll do it again. And we'll be better than this time. I've learned a lot and I will execute better. Any questions?
Questions? I think there's a lot of good information in there.
Okay, so there's no real action needed on that item. So it brings us to the good job. I mean, I know you're passionate about it and you you've learned a lot, and you've impressed a lot of people with bringing them together, and I think that's important. We've talked about that many times, that the more people are together, the more we're, able to accomplish together, for sure.
Like I said, Mayor, forgive me,
Yeah, no, go ahead.
I owe the people who helped me to make this happen, like Anita, Delvin, the entire group came up with ways, like, for example, and Anita came up with a way that we could save a lot of time, really. She suggested, well, hey, let's go to the assessor's office and use their ratings and figure out what they rated as dilapidated. And that saved us a lot of time. That we would have spent going house to house based on where their original verbiage that was written on their guidance to us. And so then there's multiple others that I can't recall off the top of my head. I thought it was a very good collaborative effort. And all of the stakeholders donated something from the Ellsworth Correctional Facility, Cashco. I was just really happy with the collaborative effort, and I'm proud of the community and the people who did participate.
It's good, very good.
Thank you for, sorry.
No, you're fine. So moving on to the next item, the community funding assistance application.
Kelly.
All right.
Okay, so in the agenda item that you have, there is not only the applications that Dustin collected quite a while back from area organizations. We have a community grants portion of our general budget that is $13,000 budgeted funds. I put in your agenda item. Typically, that money goes towards the following things. You can read on there. It's a donation to Abercrom, Legion Fest. The big one is the $11,000 annual disbursement to the Ellsworth County Council on Aging. That $11,000 does come out of that $13,000. We've given that annual disbursement for X amount of years. I couldn't tell you how many, but a lot. And she gave me their letter of request for their 2024 $11,000. I have that here in front of me. You will see that they did put a application in here. They were not following that application was for these funds. They thought it was just excess funds. There was a little bit of confusion on what those applications were for, but I think it's good that Dustin implemented this process because, as you can see, there's a lot of money requested in these applications. I kind of broke it down in that spreadsheet. Unfortunately, it didn't all get on here, but I did put on there what the funds were requested for. But anyway, the $13,000. If the Council on Aging is to get their disbursement again for 2024, that would be obviously 11 of 13, and then the satellite music is on there, as you can see, so that would put us, pretty tight as far as what's left to give. But kind of, you guys. It's kind of confusing, so I guess if you have questions, just ask, because I've kind of been in the weeds of this since Friday, so.
When we did our budget calendar early this year, my intended purpose is to establish processes, because one of the things that was stressful for me first getting here was I had a lot of community organizations requesting donations from council. And it just felt like a lot of it was done word of mouth. And for me to help keep that straight, for me to give you proper information, I did put in our budget calendar to request a process, kind of like what we did with our TIF request. Instead of just doing word of mouth and having everybody give their own version of the presentation, there's one uniform application that everybody has to fill out. It levels the playing field. And it allows you to see what their budget is along with what they're requesting, what the purpose of their request is. So I don't think that this year we have a lot of room to budget with, but if we want to do something different in 2025, this will give you information on what people are requesting, what they're needing, what the organization's mission is. So that way you're fully aware and fully informed of your decisions. That was my intention. I think we can do a better job next year, and I'll take the hit for this one because the first implementation, I'll do a better job of educating our nonprofits on the process and the purpose, and Kelly and I can better tighten the shot group, does it work?
So we budgeted for all this.
No,
This is an addition to.
that's,
We have a community grants portion of our budget that's
Right.
$13,000.
Right,
That's it.
this goes beyond that.
This is, he gave, he kind of was of the impression like, why are we picking and choosing who we're giving
Right.
money to? So I'm gonna implement a process,
Right.
which is great. However, I think that, obviously, there's only $13,000 to give, and there's a lot of money requested.
Yeah.
So, and like I said, I do have the letter from, Ellsworth County Council, I think they do get an annual disbursement typically, but that is totally up to the governing body, which is why Dustin implemented this process, so.
Okay. So the only one that followed the process just because of the new was Council of Aging.
No,
No.
a ton of applications.
No, they actually do have one in here, but they weren't of the impression that this was for their annual $11,000.
I see, okay.
They were thinking this was just an excess.
Right.
The public didn't
They
know that
wanted
we only
more
have
than their
13,000 to give. They were just
Were they
applying.
requesting more than that then?
yes, everybody requested more than what we have budgeted. And that's why that's why I presented these back in June before we deliberated.
Yeah.
And the way that, and I'll do a better job of advising council next time, so that before we go to budget deliberations in August, you can direct me how you want to do it, but just keep in mind, this is gonna come up again in May of next year, because I'm gonna adhere to the same budget calendar that I initiated this year. I'm gonna send it out in May. By June, I'll present all the applications that we get. And then we're gonna, the downside to giving, to granting these requests is, that funding has to come from somewhere.
Yeah.
And with the tight budget that we had already, in the general fund, we're gonna have to make some choices. Either we're gonna have to raise the revenue neutral rate or go above the revenue neutral rate again. Or, we're gonna have to make cuts elsewhere in the city budget. So that's a decision that council's gonna have to make, but either way,
It's a tough one to make right here now.
yeah.
Give everybody $1,100.
Are there 10 people on here? It's pretty close. Yeah.
I don't think that's gonna work for the council meeting, but we can do their 11 grand.
I'm just trying to make
Yeah.
processes better and make
Sure.
it equitable.
So kind of what I'm looking at is if we followed last year's, we'd have another $760 to figure out what to do.
Right.
We turned out the people that $153,000.
What's the total here?
Yeah, I was gonna total it up, but
Stacy's got her 55,000, which we gave her.
see, and I think that was kind of part of the confusion. I think there was just a little bit of, what
Right,
it's
right.
exactly for, stuff like that, so.
And we'll do a better job, like I said, of working with people. I just don't think it would be a good idea to abandon the application. I think, in my professional opinion, but I think the application is a good step forward in making it more equitable. And allows you to make informed decisions on where you think should a citizen's tax revenue should go.
Yeah, well, why don't we think about, should we table it?
We did one a month, or.
2 weeks? Rather get it right.
The council on aging, when did they need?
Yeah, we need, I think that one's a. yeah,
I mean, if you guys wanna make a motion to award them their 11,000, then you can.
I think that
and then
one's
we can
gonna be
cut the
big
check.
budget. I mean, that's part of your budget.
That's just up to you guys.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we grant, the council on aging their yearly $11,000 and the table discussion on the rest of the money.
I'll second that.
Motion to award the council of aging their any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
To new business, vacation. Public. And the presentation is. Go into So on September sixth at 5:30, we had a public hearing and decision by recommendation by the planning commission to recommend vacation of the dedicated public parking space we found at 1016 Road, 220 Road in the State House, and there were cases convenience store. And we brought this to you because there is a request from Casey's, and there is a tendency in Casey's General Store and Tina's, and forgive me, and Red Kit too. And if you vacate it, they will purchase, Casey's will purchase Steakhouse, and they will implement Steakhouse. So that's what you want to make a presentation. This is- Casey. Would this be a use? And there was a survey that showed that fear does. Stevie, get out of the house. Here, these two guys voted. Wait, is that? You can call it. We can. You know, Kyle? Hey Tyler, this is Kyle, so can you hear us? All right, what of that whole exchange did you hear, or did you not?
This is Shannon Gerard Casey's. I did not hear anything after the last item on your agenda.
Okay, so can we recap that real quick, Wayne? Do you want to, or do you want Melissa to come up here and summarize that for him?
She can come summarize.
Come on, Melissa. Thank you. We gotta get that figured out, like. Yeah, rip it out and something here.
Okay, so we had a quick presentation from Casey's about their plans to put in diesel pumps. And kind of what that will look like. Then we discussed, he has two concerns, one of which is the legality of vacating public parking. I was comparing it to a street, as in plotted like a street, when you vacated 50% to one side, 50% to the other. We has concerns that it's similar to like a park or a cemetery where it's dedicated public parking, and when you vacated it or let go of it, it goes. Oh, yes, and Wayne had concerns about access, but Casey's has said that there would be sort of flow through access, pass around between the building and the pumps there. Okay, and then Wayne has one other update.
Okay, so the other thing I saw on there, that there was a water line and an AT&T line through here. So what are we doing about that? We have to grant easements for those two things.
From what Joe reported to us, they are private,
Oh, they're private lines. Okay.
because that was addressed in the planning commission.
Okay, so those aren't, it's not our warrant.
No,
Okay, so Melissa, do you see any legality issues with this?
I mean, to be honest, I don't know if he's right or if I'm right. I can go back and look and see the original owners and see if they deeded it to the city with deed covenants, or if any of that was in place, or if it's just somehow got platted that way. But I would have to check more to tell you which one of us is right.
Well, I don't think I want to vote until I know who's right. My personal opinion.
Tyler, what are your opinions here?
I'm all for vacating it if it's legal. I mean, if they're gonna buy that, put in that, that's a great thing for the town, so I'm all for it.
Okay, thanks for your opinion. So Aaron, what do you think now?
I think if I knew the legal answer, I feel comfortable voting yes to it, I could, but we apparently don't know the answer.
Well, here's the thing, it's not gonna come back on us.
In back to Casey.
Okay.
It's gonna be, yeah, a title issue for that piece
Right.
of property conceivably.
And it, who is the Casey's rep? Who is this?
Hi, this is Shannon Gerard. I'm the site development manager for Casey's. I'm picking up bits and pieces of what you're saying, but did I just hear something about a little bit more title work needs to be done?
Concern for Casey's moving forward, if we vacate this property, that you could, receive a phone call from a former owner. Has the attorney for Casey's done any research on this, or?
Yes, when we order survey, we order a full title report to be incorporated into the survey. So if there's any issues, more than likely our attorney is going to catch that.
Okay, so
and
you
we'll
feel
clean it
comfortable.
up.
So you feel comfortable from your end?
Yes.
regarding
Yes,
the
I do.
dedicated public parking, did you do any title work for that?
I'd have to look into that. It's been quite some time, and since we ordered title, I'm certain anything that would have come up would have been part of that report, though.
So we asked the question whether this needed to be deeded over as well.
Yeah.
That's when it came back to us that we could vacate it this way.
And I was reciting what was advised to me by Melissa, that it would split between you two.
So, okay,
So
thank you, Shannon.
that happens.
You're welcome.
All right, I think we've reached the point where we can vote on this. So we've got 3 counselors here, and do we need to do a roll call, or we just need to straight up vote on it?
Need a motion.
Need a wall after a motion,
And then, no,
okay?
I mean, you actually need probably an ordinance to vacate, but you guys can reach your consensus if you want today, or if you want an ordinance, I mean, I can get one for you.
Okay.
I don't think it made it in there,
Yeah.
I have it.
Okay.
Are we waiting for a motion?
You're.
Yeah, he's trying to figure out how to word a
Your
motion.
motion would to either follow the planning commission's recommendation to vacate public parking, or actually, with the planning commission recommendation, you have three options. One, follow the planning commission recommendation. Two, send it back to the planning commission with specific questions that you want answered for them to look at and then come back to you. Or three is essentially override the planning commission recommendation. Does that make sense?
So recommendation of the planning commission would be to vacate in favor of Casey's.
The recommendation of the planning commission is to vacate, which is yes, what Casey's is asking for. Send it back is the process of putting it back to the next planning commission meeting with a written, you need a written list of things that you want them to look at, consider, and then make a recommendation again. And then bring this override. Those are the three options when it comes to planning commission recommendation.
Where does ordinance come into the play with that?
If you're gonna uphold the flag, so today you're gonna uphold the planning commission recommendation to vacate, then I'll bring you an ordinance to formalize that vacation.
To sign.
Next meeting, and that would go on file with the records. I mean, ideally, I would have had that in the packet so that you could do that right after your planning commission recommendation, but
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve the planning commission's address and vacating the property. Did I say that correctly?
I think so. All right, Counselor Johnson has made a motion to approve the planning commission's recommendation of the vacation of public parking between Casey's and the Ellsworth Steakhouse. Counselor Renard has seconded that motion. This is the agenda item report AR-23-290. Any discussion, any further concerns about this before we put it to a vote?
I'm pleased with the
Where's your bad elbow? All right, hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 All opposed?
Nay.
All right, motion carries 2-1 vote. Counselor Bernard has voted for it. Counselor Johnson, Counselor Scritchfield has voted against it. So we'll sign an ordinance next meeting. Congratulations, Rick and Tina and Anita and Casey's and Shannon and what was your name, sir, again?
Jeff Lovack.
Jeff, I'm sorry. Yeah. Didn't late.
Thank you,
Thanks.
everyone.
Yeah. Very good. Excited about that. Next item on our agenda, letter of support for the J.H. Rodman Memorial Library grant application. A little less stressful. Bring that up. Yeah, right here, letter of support.
Yep. The library has requested a letter of support. They're applying for a grant to pay for their handicap parking spaces.
It's different from the one that we did.
No, it's the same project. They're just looking for funding of it now.
We did letters for President, didn't we?
That's good.
Did we do that letter, Graham?
You did, but that wasn't for the library.
Okay.
We've done one for the museum and, one for the Drovers Hall of Fame. That was the last one we approved. And I also requested, because it was time sensitive, I found out last minute that the fire department was looking for a Knox box. On your grant, request that I submitted, and just let you send you an email letting you know.
Thank you, folks, appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I move the city council authorize the city administrator to write a letter of support for the J. Robbins Memorial Library grant application to Dane Hanson Foundation through the Great Western Kansas Foundation and the Smoky Hill Community Foundation for the relocation of the handicap parking space.
I'll second. All right, so Councilor Scritchfield has made a motion to approve the city administrator to sign a letter of support for the J.H. Robbins Memorial Library grant for the handicap parking spots. Councilor Johnson has seconded that motion. Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right. Vacuum truck repair.
I didn't let all of council know, but I did call the mayor and I called Wayne to let him know that our back truck was down. And so I went ahead, before Joe left, I went ahead and told him to go and fix it because we use that for pretty much almost everything. But this is their official, this is my official request to request council to send the payment to them. It's now fixed. We did have to get a couple of parts, but it is working as of today.
Good. She was informing us of the cost of repair.
Well, I need your motion because it's over $10,000, so I'm requesting authorization to us in the payment.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we authorize the payment to Red Equipment, the total cost of repair of the back truck in the amount of $44,092.77.
I'll second. Councilor Scritchfield has made a motion to approve the repair of the vacuum truck for a total of $44,092.77. Councilor Johnson has seconded that motion. Any debate? All right, hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, on to the other big item in our agenda is a 2022 audit presentation by Adams Brown.
Is it gonna work?
Maybe just press the
Yeah,
button,
this is gonna be good.
like hold on it for a second. There you go.
Okay, can they hear me?
Yep,
Okay.
this can be super exciting, right?
Yes. I see y'all hauling shut. I'm a principal with Adams Brown. I go through this really fast and I know hopefully you had a chance to look at it before. That way you can just ask questions, as we go through it. If you can- Yeah.
Hold on, we've got packets.
Oh, yeah. They have it in
She
their
brought
agenda. Yes.
You can take one, pass it down.
This whole thing is a package.
Yeah.
Here's your packet.
Sometimes it's easier to flip the paper. Sometimes it's easier to flip through it. It does match what's in the best. So I'll start with the bound report first, and then we'll go through the letters that are kind of stuck in there. So if you turn to page 1, 2, and 3 of the auditor's report. I just want to point out at the very beginning, the second paragraph down, we're giving you an adverse opinion on GAAP. That's because you waived GAAP. So the third paragraph is where we're giving you an unmodified opinion on regulatory basis of the county. And that is the highest opinion you can receive. Basically stating we don't believe there are any material misstatements of these financials. Are you on page 1? And then page 2 and page 3, this goes over the responsibilities of management, what their responsibilities are versus what ours are. And sometimes there's confusion what a financial statement audit actually is. So I just encourage you to read through that. On page 4, this is the actual financial statement we're issuing that opinion on. You guys pull your cash for all your funds, so it's just one financial statement page. At the end of the year, you had unencumbered cash, and this is as of 12/31. So, and 4.7 million. This was a slight increase over the prior year. not much change. However, where the cash is and in the funds, which funds it's in, did change. So, that is why your budget was affected, even though the cash overall was very small difference. The next page, several pages are the notes to the financials. This just summarizes the accounting policies that the city follows. There wasn't any huge changes with KMAG other than they did implement, if you have what used to be called operating leases, if they're materials or financials, you now have to include them on the list. So, nothing major. I do want to point out on page 9, we also have to look at statute requirements, and there is like a list of 9 pages, I think, that we go through. We had one violation this year, and it's kind of, we're not really sure. The bank does not have a custodial or security agreement on file for you. Typically, when you open those accounts, there is one, so they didn't know what it was. It's a really old statute, but normally I don't have issues in getting my hands on it. So, just looking into that and having them sign that agreement with you. And then on page 11, as you can see on page 4, the statement, we did have a large prior period restatement. The airport grant, usually the first 2 or sometimes even the first 3 payments that you make in the year are for prior year expenses. Those were not picked up correctly in the prior year audit. So we did have to adjust for that. We also had to adjust our schedule of federal expenditures, which is audited under the single audit guide. It's important to get that correct. So we did have a large adjustment for 1.5 million on that airport project. And then accrued payroll has not ever been picked up in the financials. So 74,000 at the end of the year that was paid out in January needed to be picked up in the prior year. We also, just for comparative purposes, we did reclassify some of the things when you get to the schedule in the back from the prior year, just to make sure it's consistent with what we did in the current year, but no changes. Page 13 is your long-term debt schedule, and at the end of the year, you had 6.4 million as your balance on your loans and general obligation bonds. This is expected to be paid off in 2041. And then the other page I want to show is page 14. This is your actual budget by fund. There were no budget violations. And then the next several pages are each individual fund's schedule. And this is just a better idea of comparing actual to prior year as well as the budget. So you can see where your ins and outs were for each individual fund, but I won't go through any of those funds individually. I'm instead gonna have you flip on over to page 39. And this year you did exceed 750,000 in federal expenditures, so we had to do an additional audit on the airport program. And so page 39 is your our independent auditors report on over internal control of the financial statements. And this is any significant or material weakness that we found through the processes procedures. We did have 2 this year. Both of them are noted as material weaknesses within the financial statements. And I will get to those as we keep flipping through here. On page 41, we also have to issue an opinion on the major program that we actually did our exam on. And it was on the airport program. And we did have one finding on that as well. It's listed as a significant deficiency. So if you keep flipping, page 44, this is the federal awards that we audited. We audited 96% under federal expenditures because the airport program was very large. So then if you turn to page 47, this is where we go through those findings, and I'm just gonna kind of do a high level of them. The first one is on segregation of duties. I don't know that you will always have this finding. A lot of our cities do. However, you've had a lot of changes, a lot of changeovers, some people doing multiple positions. So there wasn't a whole lot of segregation between each accounting function. So each position, typically utilities, revenue, payroll, AP, financial close, all had a separate person doing that. So small cities don't usually make this work. However, I think in the past it has worked for you, but last year and maybe the last couple of years, there were just changes, so. We didn't feel like there was a true segregation of duties amongst everyone. And then the second one is on the accounts payable and encumbrances, and making sure anything approved in the minutes by the board is recorded at the end of the year. You have to make sure it is appropriated at the time that it's approved. That's been a confusion in the past. And then on page 48, we have a significant deficiency on that airport program. Their reports were not filed, during the year, to the FAA. They were completed but not submitted. So we did have to put a significant deficiency in there for that. One of the letters that is stuck into the binder is management's reply to those findings, to make sure that they have them corrected for the next year. And so you will see their responses there. That will get submitted to the Federal Audit Clearinghouse with your audit report. The other letter that I have stuck in there is just a recommendation letter as we're going through procedures and controls, things that we've come across to help with efficiencies, help with the segregation of duties. We put it in this letter. If we had any difficulties with management or any disagreements with them, you would see that in there for you. We didn't have any of those such things. The last page, page 3, is where those general recommendations are noted. I won't read through each one of those for you. Management has been made aware of them as well. But if you have any questions on any of them, please let me know and I can try to explain them a little better.
Credit cards, are there employees' names that you found that have not been canceled?
I think there was 2, and they were aware of them. They can't get that, they're having a hard time getting.
Or
them
it's on
canceled.
my portion of our meeting tonight to have you guys pick them, so.
So it's not like there were 14 of them.
No, no.
Right.
I'll be straight with you, there were. And,
Not everyone knows.
yeah, I found a lot of them that were active that I had canceled.
Were there any charges on them?
No,
Okay.
I did check.
No interest.
Seems to me.
But like, little things like the store card,
Oh, okay,
Like, with,
okay, okay.
Sure.
like with,
Sam's.
Prospect Sam's Club.
Are you talking about like business credit?
No, no,
cards?
no,
Like,
no,
no,
no.
it was not. Okay,
You still got my card, right?
yeah,
Okay,
you're good.
all right.
But I really want to say thank you to Danielle and thank you to Callie because I asked Danielle when you first chose her that I wanted to be tortured. And I wanted to be scrutinized and she's done a good job of fleecing all of us jokingly.
First year is always rough.
Yeah.
I told Callie, I promise next year's gonna be better.
Yeah.
It always is.
It was so good for us though.
But Angela and Callie did a good job of helping me respond to all of those. They kicked me out of the room. And they got it done.
Very good. We certainly appreciate the scrutiny and continue that. I mean, that's what we need.
Correct. Which we will.
Yeah.
We'd like to get it. Our goal is, I don't love to have these in here. What I would prefer is during the year, we talk all throughout the year. And
Right,
we get them taken care of as they come up.
sure.
So that when I come present to you, these are, they're not there because they've already been taken care
Right,
of.
right.
But yes.
Well, thank you for doing this and being on board. If you need anything from us, let us know.
Okay, sounds good. All right.
Danielle.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I have that sheet that you need them to sign tonight. They haven't signed it yet,
That's
but,
what you gave back to me.
oh, it is?
I don't know.
Oops. Give it back so I can have them sign
Oh,
it.
yeah, it's not signed.
I'll just have them sign it so you can get out of here.
Yeah, typically we do have them, and I'm not a lawyer attorney, but typically we do see a motion to approve and accept. And then you
Okay.
sign that report.
Go on, I'll re-sign it.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve and accept the 2022 financial audit from Adams Brown.
Second.
Councilman Scritchfield has made a motion to approve the 2022 audit presentation by Adams Brown. Counselor Johnson has seconded that motion. Any discussion or debate? All right, hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carries. Very good, thank you. Now we move into the part of our meeting where we essentially, sure.
Wayne, Aaron.
You
Two
want me to
members of
second it?
the council?
Dustin and then one of them.
Okay, if it's the mayor.
It's okay, that's me. All right, you can stamp. You're the one that doesn't like the stamp, right?
I don't like the stamp. Unless you're the only one that has access to it.
It sits up here, just like me. We'll get the hang on that next year.
Thank you.
Thank it looks like, so one tweak that we made two tweaks. One thing is when Dustin calls you, well, I'll wait till my portion. So it doesn't look like we have the updates with the department heads on this agenda, right? We talked about that. They're gonna be doing their updates through you.
Yes.
Okay, so we're gonna try that. It's just trial. If you wanna go back to where they produce a weekly report, we can certainly do that. So for now, Melissa, do you have anything? No? Callie, do you have anything?
I have a couple things. One thing is we had our quarterly luncheon on Friday with our staff and it went great and everybody seems to really love those. So I just think it's important to appreciate or to emphasize the fact that we do those and it is really awesome for our staff and it brings us all together
Good.
for at least an hour on a Friday.
Yeah, that's
And just
good.
enjoy each other's company. I think that's really cool that we do that. So,
Very cool.
thank you for allowing us to do those.
Yeah.
My other thing is we do have a couple of outdated situations with our business card account. They do, Bank of America does require us to have a motion for you to take it off. We have Patty still on there, our 2 city clerks ago, and then we need to put me and Dustin on as managers for the account. So
Okay.
I would just need you guys to motion to approve that. Possible.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion that we remove Patty Brewer off those accounts and we add Dustin and Kelly.
Councilor Johnson has made a motion to remove former city clerk Patty Brewer from the, what was it, the Citibank account, Bank of America account, and to add Dustin Stanbaugh and Callie Paxton, add them to the account. Councilor Scritchfield has seconded that motion. Any debate, concerns? All right, hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carries. We'll remove her name and add your name to the Bank of America account.
Thank you.
All right, anything else, Callie?
I think that's it.
Okay, Dustin.
Thank you, Mayor, and I appreciate y'all for working with the staff, and we did have a discussion, and they felt that, by the time they get to their reports at the end, a lot of us are ready to go. And we wanted to try this, including it in my weekly reports, which I will get better at. So I hope that you're all right with that, we're just trying something different. Any thoughts on that from your perspectives?
I'm okay with it as long as they're not denied the ability to come here and talk to us.
No, not at all.
If they feel comfortable that they can come here and talk to us, because we will gladly sit here and listen to anything they have to say.
Well, the main concern is they were not sure that it was being read. So it might be easier for them to comfortably say it if that's it. So I just thought of it, after having a discussion with them, we thought it'd be easier. Police, obviously, ambulance committee are submitting his reports to us. So we'll continue to provide that and same with fire department. But as in terms of everyday stuff, I do meet with them once a week. And so during those weekly half-hour get-togethers that I have with them, they thought that would be a better format for me to catalog what they're doing. Well, not present it to you, but with you.
Right, yeah, see how you guys like it, and Jessica and Darcy, they're trying to make it, always make it a little bit better for them and for you. Anything else?
Yeah, a couple of dates to keep in mind. ICMA Austin starts on Sunday, so I am leaving Saturday. And that'll go until the 4th. I really appreciate you for allowing me to go. I don't generally ask to go to national conventions because they're usually 50 states away, and I just don't feel it's too expensive. So I do appreciate you letting me go to this one. League is right after that,
Right?
from that Saturday to that Sunday, so, I did let them know that I was not happy with their planning on that.
So the league is, what are the dates?
The league is Saturday,
7.
the 7th through the, 9th, and, I'm gonna
But you keep going.
I'll go because they have all their voting on Monday.
So you go to the 9th,
Yep,
so it's 3 day.
yep, so I'll be gone.
You saw my email?
Yes,
Okay.
and
I didn't wanna be-
I didn't get an answer
Right.
yet.
Bottom line is, I just wanna let her know, I'd like to, you just said that, I just don't wanna get your.
Yeah. I did,
I'd like to have some representation.
ICMA, I'm taking a class on narrowing the urban rural divide. Because as you know, I'm passionate about water. And so, and water use, and so I'm looking, I'm trying to gear my classes, make your investment in me worth your time and effort, and so I can come back and contribute. So I'm really, like I said, I'm really appreciative of the citizens and you guys and gals for allowing me to go. I appreciate that.
You'll be here for the meeting of the 9th.
Yes, it will. In terms of the water crew right now, the current, until I can hire somebody. The current system that I am using is, we had a couple of water breaks. On 8th Street, and they all surround our old hydrants. And so, I wanted to say thank you to, we've gotten a lot of help from Troy. Troy's contributed and he's gonna continue to work with them on compaction and how to properly do it there. Sand around the pipes and then, compact it from there using proper compaction methods. I'm not a big fan of using a skid loader. This is the first, I've already witnessed a couple of places around town that I was done on this. But, I wanted to thank City Plumbing for helping us because they've sent consultants to guide the water crew. And David, I want to thank you for stepping up. He's lending us his license. I also wanted to thank David because he's also agreed to be a mentor for the apprenticeship program with Kansas Rural Water Authority. And last week, I haven't talked to them yet, but the expectation was that they all filled out the online application to submit their names to be enrolled, and I couldn't have done that without him agreeing to be a mentor. I just don't think I'm a good water mentor. Like, that's not where my training's at.
Will be paid to do it?
What's that?
Will be paid to do it?
Yeah, the apprenticeship is a paid apprenticeship, but Kansas Rural Water Authority, they do our donation. Yes,
Good, okay.
David's, we discussed whether contractual, Kelly and I discussed with him whether we wanted to make contractual or whether he just wanted to be a part-time staff member. His capers isn't affected, so. But I'm based on the choice here, like the pay bands that I've applied are not competitive with the big cities. And I don't think we can afford that all, so, home growing them seems to be a good option B, while David or if I can get lucky, I am reaching out to municipalities as we suggested to Dan, so.
The network going.
Yeah, so I will continue. If you know somebody, please send them my direction. I've got ads posted with KFU. Tried LinkedIn, but that got a bunch of spam indeeds not working for me. So I'll continue to try to network.
Maybe at the league conference, just networking there, that's 2 weeks, that's your big question. Talking to everybody there.
But long-winded story short, that the water crew at least have a good process for now, and City Plumbing's been good helping me out with that. So I go over the dates, went over the water crew, went over David, and then everything else will be in my email.
Okay. Very good. All right, now to the council. So Tyler, do you have anything?
I do not.
Okay. Aaron, do you have anything?
No.
Wayne? I don't have a lot. I think that one thing I talked to Dustin about, I think this has really worked well, is when he contacts you. If it's information only for your constituents, he'll communicate that to you. Take a little bit of You know, because sometimes Dustin does a lot of communicating, and I don't know what's action for me and what's not, and that seems to work incredibly well. I appreciate that. They'll just email me, say information only, that way if someone comes up to me in the streets and says, what's going on, I know what it is, but I don't need to do anything. And that's taken a little bit of, you know, a little bit off my shoulders, and if he does want me to do something, he'll state that, and I'll certainly do that, so. With that said, I think we're gonna head into an executive session for 5 minutes, and then we'll adjourn after that, so. The motion to go to executive session starting at maybe 7:05. And would it include the city clerk, the city administrator, council? Who?
Sure, that's fine.
Okay,
Director and Client Privilege.
Yeah,
okay,
And Mr. Mayor, I move that we go into executive session until 7:10 for attorney-client privilege with the city council, city clerk, the mayor, and city attorney.
city administrator.
Can you give me a little more?
detention basin,
Attention, please. What?
detention basin, Crazy Park.
Chris Clark. We got a motion, second that motion.
Yeah, I'll second.
All right, we will, Councilman Christmas made a motion to go into executive session for attorney-client privilege regarding Prison Park until 7:10, including the city clerk, city administrator, city council, mayor, city attorney. Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
I'm on it.
Is Tyler still with us?
Yes.